you have to create a new project. If you have created a new project, you can move towards creating a droplet. To create a droplet, you can click on the create option over here, select droplet. Once you select your droplet, choose your region where you want to host your server. I will choose Singapore. So that's my data center. And I will choose Ubuntu. This is the preferred one. I'll leave this to basic. And in the CPU options, I'll go for the regular one. Now, keep in mind, minimum configuration required is 8 GB RAM and 4 CPUs and a minimum of 100 GB of disk space. So this is the right option, the minimum required to start with. You can always change it later. So I will choose this one. The next we have to configure is the backups. I highly recommend to keep a backup and a daily backup. So I will select the daily backup. I will leave it to their default time. And once I do that, I have to move towards creating an SSH key to secure access to my server. After you select your droplet configuration, you have to create an SSH key. Click on the plus icon to see the commands to generate an SSH key. Copy the first command and paste it in your terminal. Follow the commands on your terminal. Enter the key name, or you can leave it as default as ID_RSA. Just hit enter if you want to leave it default. I'll leave the passphrase as empty. Now my public and private key is generated. Now to copy my public key and to add it to the server, I will go and copy the command and paste it in here. So you enter the command in your terminal, you will see the public key, copy it and paste it in this section. You name your key and add SSH key. Now that your SSH key is added, you verify your details for your hosting and just click on create droplet. Once you click on create droplet, it's going to spin up the instance for you. The progress bar will indicate the status of the spinning up of instance. Once it's completed, you'll be able to see all the details. Now let us log into our host. So let me clear the terminal, and then I'll go back and copy my public IP that's ending with 107. I copy the IP and go back to the terminal and I paste this command. Once I paste this command and hit enter, it should display a screen like this, and you can see root at Ubuntu. Now, once you have cloned the repository, you should be able to see a folder L1X Full Node, and let's enter the file. After entering the file, you can see the details. Now, we need to install Docker. I do not have a Docker version installed, so let's install Docker. Now, to install Docker, just copy and paste all the commands that are in the documentation. You can follow the video for reference, but I highly recommend looking at the documentation. So first we'll be installing all the dependencies and then followed by the commands to install Docker. Now we have installed all the dependencies. Now our Docker is installed. Now let's check the status of Docker. So enter the command, and as you can see, it's active. Now to install Docker Compose, copy the first command and paste it in your terminal. After you install Docker Compose, copy the executable permission command to give permission to the binary. The next step is to run the nodes. Make sure you are into the folder where you have all your files cloned. So in my case, it's nodes / L1X FVN node. Now, once you do this, we have to generate the L1X artifact that will create a username and password for our database. Just copy and paste the password. And once you have done this, you can see there's a user and password generated. And a new file that is config.toml will be generated. Just enter ls and you should be able to see the file config.toml. Now, next thing we have to do is enter the file config.toml. My preferred command is nano to open a file in a terminal. So enter nano and the file name and hit enter. Replace your public, private, and FVN UUID. Now I've updated my details in the config.toml file. Next step is kickstarting the L1X node. Make sure you're into the right folder, that's L1X FVN node, where the script start L1X.sh is present. Copy the command, paste it in the terminal, and hit enter. After you hit enter, you should be able to see your node pulling all the details from the network. So right now you can see your database is successful and now your server is up and running. Just confirm these two statuses. Now, if you want to check your containers ID, you can enter the command docker ps. You can see there are two containers generated, one for the server and one for the database. The next step is checking what's going on the server. So copy the docker logs command from your documentation and enter. If at this point you're able to see this data, that means you have successfully configured the node. Now, if you want to go and check what's actually going on the server and how you're contributing to the network, come back after a couple of hours and enter the docker logs command, and you should be able to see how your server is communicating with the network.